Is this where I get chosen for the big world? Wedgehead? Whoa! You'd hide too if you were responsible for all of this. Is it too much?
No, it's good.
I can tone it down.
It cannot be too much.
Moxy! 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 More?
Got it? No. We'll repeat that and repeat that.
Etc. Do you need the etc.? Like etc. etc. I have a wedge for a head. Ain't no stopping them now. I've never said the word ain't convincingly, unfortunately. People are clapping.
Fantastic.
People are clapping.
Yeah.
Oh, delicious. Get it? Delicious, delicious. I'm a genius. Ew. E to the W, ew. Woo! Loo, 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 loo. Woo, 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 woo. A whole town. What's it called? Uglyville? Uglies. No, nobody. Nobody thinks I'm funny. Okay. Now we have to go down there. Oh, girl, you have to pay me extra for this.
Great.
Well, you know, this is a story that has a lot of rules and a lot of setup. You have to understand and you have to communicate to the audience a lot of things that really are difficult to do unless the character's just a lot of exposition and a lot of long dialogue. I didn't want that. Songs afford the opportunity to have characters sing about some of this stuff and in an entertaining way tell you this information. I think it's a more entertaining way to have to tell the intricacies of a world, to sing about them, give hints about it, but the audience doesn't feel like it's being just schooled the whole time. And we had fun with that. And Chris Lennertz and Glenn Slater, when I suggested that it be a musical, they had already written the first song and they were ready to go for more. So then we started structuring the movie based on songs and letting those be sort of the benchmarks that we would hit. And that's kind of the beauty of making a musical, is you have these great moments that you know are going to be good set pieces to work toward, yet still tell the story. Well, Kelly Clarkson, I had never met her. I'd seen her on television. I'd seen her on The Voice. And, you know, you have an image of what you think she's like. And that's funny and talkative and energetic. But you never know when that's a persona or when it's something that they're really like. Kelly walked into the recording stage and was exactly the warm, fun, energetic person you would think she was. Her confidence level is beyond anyone I've ever met in terms of just a complete self-secure and confident and self-possessed in a way that is a really healthy, you get a healthy feeling from her when she's around you. And Moxy is the same way. So really, Kelly even read the script and said, did you guys write this for me? Because Moxy is pretty, undauntable. You can't stop Moxy if she wants something. And I get the impression from Kelly that she's very much the same way. Well, Ugly Dog is, once again, there's a level of confidence and self-assuredness, sometimes too much, where he might get himself in trouble if he's not careful. And when I met Pitbull and he talked, I thought, I have a feeling that he has some of those. He's very confident, but sometimes he might get himself in trouble if he's not careful. Those are all very funny aspects about both of them. And I think that he was able to step right into Ugly Dog and be this character because we really created Ugly Dog to be Pitbull. I mean, we really sort of tailored the character to him before we even met him. So we wanted that persona, that Pitbull persona. Blake Shelton, we thought of a whole different, all types of people that could be Mayor Ox. And Mayor Ox was a bit of a struggle because the part he plays in the movie is not a parent, but it is an authority figure as much as there can be an authority figure in Uglyville. He's very protective of all the citizens. He has a secret, of course, that I don't want to give away here, but he does have a background that makes him a little more of a cautious character. But he also is extremely friendly and everyone likes him. And there's a lot of warmth. When the name Blake Shelton came up, we all thought, you know what? He's got that likability factor that actually sounds about right because he is someone that makes you feel comfortable when you're around him. And he is someone who's very warm and nice and talkative and just comfortable at all times. Well, Janelle Monae there's something so calm and comforting and I would just say generally nice about Janelle Monae. And Mandy was an underdeveloped character as well when we went to Janelle. And when Janelle was asking me questions about the character, it was challenging me. It was like, yeah, well, what would Mandy do if there was a fire drill? What would Mandy do if there was, if something went wrong? Would she be someone who ran or would she help? And I said, I think she would help. I think that Mandy is always wanting to help, but Mandy has her own insecurities and her own problems, but she tries to hide them and she puts other things in front of that, other people in front of that. And I think that Janelle brought some reality to the character that became very grounding. And I think that the character Mandy serves as really a grounding presence throughout. She keeps things stable. You care about her. She's got some secrets of her own. And I think that makes you sympathize with her. Janelle was able to tap into all of that and really gave a beautiful, sensitive performance that you believe. Well, the first thing we got from Nick was Lou's dialogue. And the song tells you everything about Lou. But I don't know if he had heard the song before he recorded it or after. But when he came into the studio that day, I was talking about Lou, and I talked about, he's that guy that is always superior to everyone. He's always got to be the smartest person in the room. And as I was talking and describing, he goes, yeah. He said, I got it. And I could tell he knows someone like that. We all do. Not necessarily a mean guy all the time, but a guy who basically does think he's superior. And he just got behind the mic in front of the microphone and just gave it, and it was the character. He didn't even need coaching. He was like a push button. He gave me exactly what I wanted in the first takes. He just got it. Well, aside from several really, really catchy, good songs that have meaning to them, I think they also have two very different worlds to explore. There's a little bit of, this movie has a little bit of the Goonies in it. There's a little bit of exploration to be done, and it's a group of friends who are sticking together. So there's a little bit of Stand By Me. There's a little bit of the Goonies. There's people that are faithful to each other and stand up for each other and help each other. But most of all, I think all of us are an ugly doll once in our life, and we see ourselves in the mirror one way, and other people see us another way. And I think it's an important message to realize that it's what you see in the mirror that's the most important. And it's what you have to find that truth, which is one of the key things in our story, that these characters go out into a world not knowing that they have a lesson to learn, but in the process of getting what they want and doing what they want and achieving these goals, they also inadvertently learn something bigger and affect the world in a way that they couldn't have known. So I think those are all things we all should keep in mind as we go through life. Well, I think that Broken and Beautiful is a summation. If you listen to the lyrics, it's a summation of what the movie is all about. And that is, yes, I'm different. Yes, in your eyes, I may seem broken, but you know what? I'm still beautiful and I'm still great. And that's really, everyone has an inner beauty about them. If you just look beyond the physical, or sometimes look beyond just what you're seeing and know the person. And that's what that song is asking and begging for, which I think sums up a lot of what this movie is.
Kelly Asbury was the perfect person to direct this film for me for a number of reasons. Number one, I knew him and really liked him. We'd worked together about 20 years before then. So that was nice. But also because he has such an extensive background in animation. He has been a story artist, he's been an artist and a production designer. He knows animation so well. He loves musicals. He's worked on a number of them. He had a previous working relationship with Chris Lennertz, our composer. When we were communicating with our crew in several different locations, he was able to instantly develop a rapport with them and a vocabulary with them that really expedited the process for everybody to get on the same page creatively. And he has such a great sense of humor overall. Which I think is also really helpful about a film that's about joy and happiness, is to work with someone who also has a great sense of humor. The one advantage of working on a musical is that music speaks to the heart so well, and the characters can speak very directly about what they want or what they're feeling without it being corny, and in a way that it feels very profound for you as an audience member. And you also are able to get through a lot of information that you wouldn't normally be able to stomach, I think, in a way, if you do it through music. And one of the first songs that we heard was the opening number, Couldn't Be Better. And there was something so exciting about hearing that take on it, because I thought, I haven't really heard a musical number like this in an animated feature before, in which the whole town gets together, and then at the end, they all collapse in exhaustion and start panting. I thought that was great. And that seemed so perfect for our movie, that they would have this exuberance that they were willing to just show at the end of the song. And then Lou, by contrast, who is all about perfection, is so much more polished. And we had to convey a number of different rules about perfection and what he did and what his role was. And the music really helped to explain that in a way that I don't think that we could have conveyed as quickly or as emotionally as him singling out people and saying, you're not perfect enough, you're not perfect enough. There's something about him doing that makes you understand what that's like for the people involved, much more than him explaining it. So it was a collaboration between Chris Lennertz, the composer, and Glenn Slater, the songwriter. And they came out very early, and we discussed what our outline was at the time and what we thought would happen at various points. And we talked about where a song would make sense. And they had a lot of experience and a lot of opinions about where the song should take place, not having a song too close to another song, and how the transition from one part, from the first act to the other, should happen, as an example. And so it was very helpful also seeing what they thought that they could take if we had a story problem, if a song would work well for it, or if that would be better handled by animation and story. And so once we could kind of place in those songs, then we could divide up the task between us. And they would go and try something. We would prioritize the songs in terms of what we thought was important to land first about the characters of the story. And they would go write a demo, and then we would respond to it, and then it would affect story, or we would do something in story and send it to them, and it would affect them, and we sort of went back and forth, and it grew together as we went forward. But they always had such insightful comments that were different from our story team in a way, but super helpful to have that perspective.
Well, you know, I think everybody seems to have the same connection to the brand, regardless of who the character is, because it's about authenticity, being your true self. It's about diversity. It's about taking the things in your life that are true to you and letting others see who that is. And so when it came time to casting this movie, everyone from Pitbull to Kelly Clarkson to Nick Jonas, Janelle Monae, everybody connected to the characters because they all stood for who is your authentic self, and they all believe in their real lives that that's what's so important. So they connected to the characters and to the brand in a very special, personal way. Kelly understood what we were trying to do. He understood the aspects of authenticity and diversity, the importance of being your true self. And those were themes that were very important to Kelly when, even from the first meeting that we had, I had seen his other work and admired his other work and felt like he was going to get not just the emotion out of it and the comedy out of it, but also the design. He has such a great sense of design. He can also draw beautifully himself and made a living from early on in his career doing that. And so given how quickly we wanted to get this done and still keep the quality as high as we needed it to be, both from the design of it, the storytelling, but also ultimately the animation, he was the perfect choice. Well, first and foremost, I want them to be entertained. I want them to laugh. And I worked on many animated movies, all the Pixar movies that I worked on, starting with Toy Story through many of their biggest hits. The emotion is so important. So my hope is that we not only get audiences laughing, but also feeling something for these characters and seeing themselves and relating to so many of these characters. So if you can laugh and you can ultimately cry, but happy tears, wonderful tears, that is the goal. Well, the world that we created was one of thread and fabric and felt. Our ocean is satin. Our buildings are made of material. Everything that you associate with that kind of world, even the currency is buttons in the world of Uglyville. By creating this world, we were able to make some fun choices where if you look closely, if the animation is done just right, which we believe it has been, if you look closely, if you look at the side of a cliff, you see corrugated cardboard. If you look at the sun, it's a ball of yellow yarn. If you look at the moon, it's a crescent-shaped button. So there's constant reminders of how unique this world is. And it's one thing to talk about it this way and want it to look a certain way, but the designers and animators turned it into that, which is a whole other thing. And so for them to pull that off so that you see the detail on screen, you see the villain's hair is a perfectly coiffed series of blonde yarn. You really see the detail, and when that happens, you're immersed in the movie in a very different way, and I believe audiences are very smart and they notice those things and hopefully give you credit for designing something that is as immersive a world as we've created.